Partner betrayal trauma and dissociation. This is a very interesting conversation to have. If you've experienced partner betrayal trauma, please hang with us for a few moments. I think it can help you. Now, if you've yet to subscribe to our channel, please hit that button. And if you have a question, put it in the box. We will get back to you as soon as possible. Partner betrayal trauma and dissociation. Let's first define our terms. Partner betrayal trauma is a woman or a man who's experienced trauma because of their partner's behavior, be it sexual addiction, pornography, self-behavior, behaviors with others. That would be also people who've experienced infidelity, be it relational or just paid services, or regardless of who the other person is. And also those who experience intimacy anorexia. Your spouse is too busy for you, they blame you, they withhold love, they withhold praise, they're critical of you, they don't talk about their feelings, they use anger and silence as a way to control you, and they actively withhold emotional and spiritual and sexual intimacy from you, and you're in pain and you feel married and alone. That's those people who've experienced partner betrayal trauma. Now let's talk about disassociation. Disassociation and trauma have been linked in the trauma movement way back decades ago. We know that trauma, and this information is in the partner betrayal trauma book and the DVD. We know that trauma overwhelms you spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, neurologically, and physiologically. Okay, your system is taking a lightning bolt into its entire system, not just one part of the system, but all of the system. Okay, and the system gets threatened to be blown out. And so to survive, this happens in war, this happens in rape, this happens in sexual abuse, this happens in partner betrayal trauma. To survive, the human, the woman or the man, disassociates or disconnects from the experience. And it's like they create a secondary hard drive and they put it on that hard drive. Now, what can happen is they can survive. They can function as a mom or a dad and our husband and wife. It's kind of like the situation that many of you would be familiar with. You know, it's the woman who gets beat up by her husband. And while she's getting punched, she disassociates. So when she comes back from that disassociated state, she doesn't remember everything. And so she stays in the relationship. Let me give you some old classic research. They took a bunch of college students, they put them on amphetamines to study. So group 1 got amphetamines to study, group 2 got amphetamines to study. Now, group 1, when they took the test, they did not allow them to have amphetamines to take the test. Now, when they were on amphetamines, they were in an altered state or a dissociated state. And so the information that they studied was in that state. So when they took the test, they did very poorly because the information they needed was in an altered state. The other group got amphetamines during the study time and during taking the test. Well, they did exceptional because they had access to the same information that was in the altered state because they were in the same altered state. So partner betrayal trauma, you go into an altered state if you've been neglected, you disconnect, and then you come back. Sometimes they throw you a bone and it's good for a week or two and you stay for another year or two. And your pain is oftentimes in an altered state. With sexual addiction, their immaturity and their constant bizarre behaviors for you doesn't make sense to you. You might disconnect or disassociate. Infidelity, when you hear the news of infidelity, oftentimes you disassociate and you disconnect from it. And then you go through the grieving process, reassociating with that, the shock, the denial, the anger, the bargaining, the sadness, and then acceptance. And you go through those stages of reassociating, reintegrating the data. You know, in the Married and Alone workbook, which is for spouses of intimacy anorexics, one of the exercises I have them recount how many times they've tried to be loved, how they've asked to be loved, how they've, communicated that or, pretty much drew the map. And when they do that exercise, they reconnect with all of the efforts they've made to try to be loved. And they come to the conclusion that they weren't loved and the other person wasn't trying to love, even though they over-communicated how to love them. And many times they went in and out of dissociated states because they had to survive. They had to raise their family. They had to go to work. And they just put it on the back shelf and they disconnected from themselves. So if you've experienced partner betrayal trauma, I would doubt that you have not experienced disassociation at some level. As you do your recovery, you do the workbooks, you do the groups, you do the counseling, or if you're in our Facebook groups for these issues, you'll hit information that feels similar, and you'll be able to reassimilate some of this information and begin to put together some of these pieces in your recovery. Now, of course, if you don't do recovery, you may gain some of this information over time, but it'll be many years for you to gain what you would gain if you were actively in a phone group or phone counseling, or if you did an intensive. And if you've experienced part of betrayal trauma, your brain has actually been impacted. And in our office at Heart to Heart Counseling Center, we have a company in the building that does neuromodulation. And it's fantastic for trauma that these women and men have experienced if you've experienced part of betrayal trauma. So you could definitely get help. I would call the office, 719-278-3708. That's 719-278-3708. That's Heart to Heart Counseling Center. We have specialized in part of betrayal trauma. I'm the president of the American Association for Sex Addiction Therapy. We have a 45-hour training. We've had many women and some men buy that program just to get all the information that is available to understand part of betrayal trauma. But you want to be talking to a counselor who's been certified in part of betrayal trauma. This is not something a generalist will be able to help you with or understand, and you might actually get blamed or labeled inappropriately. You did not deserve this. You were not the cause of it. You are not a factor in them doing this to you or in them healing. So I would encourage you to get help. Yes, dissociation is real. You do not remember a lot of what's happened to you. Oftentimes as you do recovery, it comes back and it's like, wow. Now for the addict, or for the intimacy anorexic, or for the person who committed infidelity, it takes them 8 to 12 months to get sober enough to validate your pain. So if you're one of those people who's saying, well, if they would just, validate my pain, if they would just be able to take full responsibility. Well, they can't do that for 8 to 12 months if they're in active recovery, and they definitely can't do it if they're not in some active recovery. So I would encourage you that you probably would do well to heal you, regardless of your spouse's choices. Get the workbooks, get some phone counseling, do an intensive if you can, come to Colorado Springs and get those done. You deserve to heal. And no one's going to see the broken bones you have, in your soul and in your spirit, in your body, in your sexuality, in your past, in your present, in your future, because they're invisible to the eye. Now, if you were in a car accident, you were broken up like this, everyone would have compassion on you. But no one's going to understand what you've been through except other people who've been through it. So that's why group is really helpful, and why counseling is helpful with someone who understands your particular pain and your particular disassociation that you've gone through. So reach out for help, reconnect with your story, reconnect so that you can make the best decisions to protect yourself, move forward, or if you're going to reintegrate into this relationship, you can do it with boundaries and strength. We want you to have the best recovery and healing possible after the part of betrayal trauma you've experienced.